Good morning. Wow, it's windy out here. Some of y'all were complaining about not being able to hear the last video. You know you have two volumes on your computer, right? You have the volume under the video and then you have the volume of the main computer. That could be something. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Good morning. Bunch of things. I used to work national level intelligence, and I had multiple clearances and saw things that I can never talk about. But I'll tell you this, the international news is pretty good as far as tracking stories for the most part. They usually are missing many of the details. Well, I'd say they were good. I mean, this was some years ago, right? But one guy in particular whose columns I used to read, and at the time I think he was writing in the Washington Times, may have been the Post though, was a guy named Bill Gertz. Bill Gertz has excellent sources and excellent instincts, and I gotta throw a rock at my dog. Get! Come here. I just told him to get through a rock. I'm not telling him to come here. Come here. I'm going to take this bell off. Hush. All right, get. We put a bell on him for a couple reasons. One, it lets deer know he's coming and get out of the way. We don't want him to chase deer. And two, it lets us know like that where he's at when he's running around. Okay, so back to Bill Gertz. Bill Gertz had excellent sources and good instincts. Still does. If Bill Gertz wrote it, and I would submit, or writes it, you can take it to the bank. That's about all I can say on that. But I just read an article he just came out with that there's like a bazillion, I don't know if it was 22,000, 25,000 Chinese spies in the U.S. I started reading it and then I scanned the bulk of it. Yeah, I mean, I had here, I'll tell you a story. We're going somewhere with today's video, but come on, we're drinking coffee, right? I was assigned to Fort Leavenworth one time, and I used to run every day while I was there, usually around lunchtime. And one of the runs I would do went up to, up a hill, a very big hill, up to the Leavenworth military prison. There is a Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary, but this is the military prison where if you're a soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine and you do something really bad, you end up going there. And so this road went all the way up this pretty steep hill, which I liked because it was hard, right, to go up there. And then right at the parking lot of the prison, if you will, because it's like through the woods, right? It's a paved road, but it's through the woods. And at the parking lot, at the edge of the parking lot, there was a big sign that said, "No unauthorized personnel, blah, 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 blah." And so I would turn around at that sign and run back down the hill. And it's about a 6-mile run that I would do. And since I'm running around lunchtime, you see the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who work there, as like prison guards, leaving to go to lunch, some of them. And you would see all the time this Hunan Gardens Chinese delivery food, right? They actually took like a tote bin and then just put like the little peel-off letters Hunan Gardens on it and like strapped it to the top of their car, and they would deliver food to the the military personnel who couldn't leave or whatever. Not the prisoners, the people who worked there. But he'd go zipping up the road past me. And this was when we got the new uniforms. And I know I'm boring you a little bit, but it used to be that officers would wear rank on their right collar, like with the BDUs, with the camouflage uniform. And then they went to this abysmal, gravel pit gray ACUs, and the rank was right in the dead center of the chest. And so I'm running up the road one day. Oh, and my buddy used to run with me, and he ran faster than me. And there was this big curve, so I'd always take the inside of the curve. He'd take the outside of the curve. And so traffic was coming behind me. And so one day a car stopped, and coming out of the prison, and kind of stopped my buddy, and there's a conversation going on through the window, and then they go, and then, you know, I can't talk, I can't barely breathe going up this hill. And then we got to the turnaround, he'd always wait for me, and I said, what did that guy stop you for? He goes, oh, he told me we're not allowed to run on this road. And I said, well, he's crazy, man. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Right up here, it's the sign says no unauthorized personnel. We turn around there and go back. No big deal. He's like, okay. Well, then a couple days later, that same car comes up behind me and pulls over. And the guy rolls down his window and goes, hey! And so, and I lean in, and I'm trying to remember exactly how it went. He goes, hey, you're not allowed to run on this road. And he's wearing a uniform, right? And I said, oh yeah, I am. I run on this road every day. He goes, no, I'm telling you, you're not allowed to run on this road. And so I leaned in. I did that like body jiu-jitsu. You know, I put my hands on his car and I leaned in the passenger window. And I said, oh yeah? Well, who the hell are you? It blew this guy's mind. He was flummoxed. He was like, and he pulls his seat belt, you know, his shoulder belt over to see his rank. And he was a full bird colonel. That's a high rank in the military. It's right below general. I didn't know. I really didn't know. And he looked kind of young to me because, you know, I'm getting older, right? And he goes, I command the prison. And I said, oh, I apologize, sir. Your prison, your rules. I said, but I tell you what, your sign is up there by the parking lot, not down here. And I said, also, you know this Chinese guy drives by here every day, right? You know, I have, because at the time, I had a top secret clearance. I said, I have a top secret clearance, and you don't want me to run on your road for PT, but you let the Chinese, and he just drove away. Because I was a civilian, so he doesn't outrank me, but he was mad. Well, that's the whole point, isn't it? My wife and I have a joke about that. No matter where you go in this country, just out in the boondocks, there's some Chinese restaurant, a real Chinese restaurant with like real Chinese people, off the boat Chinese people there. They're everywhere. Are some of them intelligence agents? You bet your bippy. You know they are. Come on. Put yourself in China's shoes. If you had local nationals scattered all over probably your #1 threat country, don't you think you'd recruit some of them? Keep your ear to the ground, keep your nose to the wind. Let us know if something's going on. You know they are. They're everywhere, man. I personally am not worried because I'm not in that business anymore. But, so there's a little story. Yeah, there's a lot of Chinese agents. What will they do if war starts between us? When war starts between us and China? I don't think they're going to go around killing people. I don't think they're like trained ninjas. I think they're just people sharing information, you know. Someday I'll tell you the Spetsnaz story. Real story. Well, this video's going too long already. I haven't talked about what I want to talk about. All right, so there's that. Hopefully it was amusing to you. I own the prison, or I run the prison, I command the prison, something like that. He was the commander of the prison. I did a video long ago, like I bet you it's one of my first 10 videos, called The Stages of Survivalism, or something like that. And I've been having a good time talking to Sam, who just up and moved here from Northern Virginia. And he spent yesterday looking for a job. Came back with a stack of applications and or websites to get on to find a job. You know, to apply, not to find, to apply. They said, you got to apply on our website, kind of thing. And he was very upbeat and, you know, going to get a job. And so today, because he sold his laptop before he came out here, today he's either going to go buy a used laptop or he's going to go to a library and get on one of their computers and start applying for jobs. And he's got a line on a couple houses lined up later this week. So he's making the moves. And when he's successful, I'm going to do a video about him on that. you know, we got to have some meat for that, right? But he and I have been talking about a lot of things, and my video, The Stages of Survivalism, and I bet you are somewhere on this paradigm. Matter of fact, I'd be kind of interested in your comments if you kind of put what stage you're in. And I'm just going to arbitrarily, I'm no survival guru, right? But I'm just going to arbitrarily label them like level 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, whatever. So level 1, preparedness, prepper, survivalist. I like the term survivalist because it's a little politically incorrect now. Level 1 is when people become aware, and usually what the first thing people do is, it's probably bad grammar, more coffee. They put together a bug out bag or a 72-hour kit, right? But they put together a grab and go bag of gear so that they can survive what's coming. And, you know, that can be a stage that lasts a long time. But there's people who do that. And then kind of, and I call that stage 1. You have a bug out bag and maybe like 2 weeks worth of food. Like you've actually thought about how much food I have. But then after that, after the bug out bag, comes the idea of, well, that's kind of like a long camping trip with very limited supplies. That could be no fun. So maybe I should start storing up more. And then it becomes kind of the, I'm going to get first aid stuff, I'm going to get food, I'm going to get water storage, you know, like cases of water, those big 5-gallon carboys of water or whatever. Ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom. And so people start stocking stuff. And that starts to rise almost to the level of the people you see on Doomsday Preppers. I call that level 2. It's a big level. But it's basically where people start storing stuff, right? And, you know, it can get ridiculous. You have people in apartments saying, you know, I don't have any more room, what do I do? And I tell them, well, lift your couch up on blocks, and then now you have more room onto your couch, you know, stuff like that. I talk about stuff like that in my book. But that's kind of level 2. And then people start realizing, you know what, all the stuff in the world is still finite. And I'm going to have to start producing stuff. Because I don't care if you get 2 of those air, sea, land containers, I call them connexes, you know, the big metal box, 8 by 8 by 40 kind of thing, or 20. And you stick them in your backyard and you fill them with prepper supplies. Eventually they're going to run out, right? Or they could get stolen or burned up or tornadoed away or, you know, whatever. Or you could be caught across the country, you know, whatever. Although that doesn't help for the next stage. Whatever. Most people never go beyond that point. Because you can go to the point, one can go to the point where they store a whole lot of prepper supplies. But they don't have to change their way of life a whole lot. And you know what? That may be a good plan, right? So don't think that one level is necessarily better than another, but I think they are better. I don't think they're necessarily necessary. Give you an example. You can buy a $300 sheath knife, right? Or you can buy $40 sheath knife. The $300 sheath knife is probably a better knife, but the $40 knife is probably good enough, right? How much is your life worth? But a lot of people stop there. Stage 2, the storing of stuff. A few people decide, nope, I need to start producing my own so I have a long-term system set up. Homesteading, by whatever you want to call it. I call it being a neo-pioneer because I'm out here, but you don't have to be this rugged. You could just get a piece of land with, you know, a couple acres, really, and just start intensively gardening and catching rainwater and raising meat, you know, stuff like that. And so it's like, yeah, I can sustain this now, right? And I call that stage 3, preppers. It's like, yep, we could become self-sufficient. And that is our goal here. Our goal here is to get to stage 3, where we are self-sufficient. We are not producing enough food yet. For one reason, we're not taking it seriously enough, quite frankly, which is probably another video for another time. But But we're trying, and we're getting better every year, right? And so that's stage 3. There's a stage 4. Stage 4 is having an agricultural community, and by community I mean like an intentional community, like a group that is all living on the same piece of land and is producing food so that they can continue. An excellent example is Straightway. Straightway is a group of like-minded believers, saints, Israelites, who live on a piece of land, and they're not yet 100% self-sufficient, but they're pretty close. They have awesome gardens, great greenhouses. They raise, I haven't been there for 2 years, but at the time they were raising goats and meat birds, which they still do, and cattle. And you know, they would be pretty well off if the whole system went poof, from a food production standpoint compared to most other vast majority of other people, right? So they're getting that going, and they're all together, boom, right there, which provides many more benefits, because the reason you want to be together is security. Not just guard duty security, but what happens when, you know, this person gets too ill to work and work needs to be done, or people gonna die. You know, whether that's bringing in firewood or chopping vegetables or cooking the stew or, you know, whatever. Many hands make light work. And when you have a group of people living together, they can cover for each other, right? And so that works better. That's the final stage, I think. An agricultural, intentional community, for lack of a better term. A slight one-off of that is an agricultural neighborhood. But that's not as tight, and there's cracks for tension to occur there. And because it's a neighborhood, check this out, I'm kind of segueing into another subject which maybe we can go deeper on. Because it's a neighborhood, the physical security is not going to be as good, because people aren't going to want to leave their house, right? They're not going to want to move to one location where they're all kind of tight, like the village, the hamlet, right? I know we have at least one member here, flies, who are familiar with the Strategic Hamlet program in Vietnam. You guys might want to look into that. Kind of interesting. Lessons to be learned there. I may look into that some more too. This fly is bugging me. Get thee behind me, Satan. And so yeah, bug out bag, level 1. Storing a lot of stuff, level 2. Going into some type of homesteading where you're producing your food, a level 3. And level 4, homesteading with a group of people, whether that's extended family or people who believe like you, or just people who want to hang out and do that kind of thing, right? It's all good. That's what I see. 4 levels. Where are you? I suspect most of you are 1.5. That's what I think. Let me know. All right, I'm going to finish up with some questions for y'all. You don't have to answer these questions. They're rhetorical questions for you. They're really for you to think about. If you, right now, went into your house, shut your doors, or closed the gate to your property, we can allow that. Some of you are on more property. How long could your family consume 3 meals a day worth of calories on your place before you would need to go out to get more, or to, you know, buy more, trade for more, whatever? How many calories do you have access to for your family? In other words, the equivalent of 3 meals a day. I'm not saying you have to eat breakfast for breakfast, lunch for lunch, and dinner for dinner, or supper for supper, but calories, so you're not taking a hit in calories. We're going to start rationing now. No. How long could you eat normal meals with your family if you just close the bar the door, right? That's number 1. Don't just guess. I mean, try to give it some real consideration. Like, walk around your place and do a little inventory and think about it. And if you have to err on the side of, is this 2 days or 3 days worth of food? 2 days. Because let me tell you something, once you start working, really working, you're going to be hungry. And you will be really working. So, but that's something you should look at. How much water do you have if the municipal water supply quit working? So if most of you are getting water from the county, the city, whatever, you know, you pay a water bill. If that quit working, how much water do you have? How long can you go water-wise if it's not coming in anymore and you can't leave your place? You can't leave your land. Now, if you're on 100 acres with a lake, you're good. Assuming you have a way to transport that water to your living quarters and have a way to purify it. If you have a well and you have an electric pump, what's your backup plan for when that pump fails for whatever reason? Your real backup plan, not your idea, not your backup idea. What's your backup plan? Something you have taken steps for. Think about that. Medical. How are you, because a lot of y'all are getting a little bit long in the tooth, gray in the beard too, I can tell. But some of you aren't. How long are you good for on your medications, and what's going to happen when they're gone? What's your plan? Again, not your idea. What's your plan? What do you have in place that when the last of my, I don't know what even people take, high blood pressure medicine goes away, my heart medicine goes away, I've taken my last pill, now what? May just be whatever. Okay, as long as you have thought it through. Some people like diabetics, you know, there's more planning needed, I think. So there's that. There he is again. Food, water, medical. Oh, medical, not just medicine. Somebody on your place is doing something on a ladder, they fall off and a bone is sticking through their leg or arm, you know. Boink. Ah! Can you deal with that? Do you know what to do? Have you practiced? Stuff like that, people used to do all the time in this country. You know, 1800s, 1700s. Pioneers out there on their own. They didn't have the town doc to go to. They had to deal with stuff. I talked to my dad one time about his dad, because I don't understand where the money has changed in this country. My grandfather was a coal miner, and he was the equivalent in my terms of a coal miner squad leader. Right? You know, he was in charge of about 10 guys, and they would go down in the mine and dig coal all day, and then they'd come back out. And so how much money is that, right? You know, it's not a doctor, it's not a lawyer, it's not a merchant, it's hard, dirty scut work, right? And this was back in the, what, 40s, 50s, I guess. So I was wondering how much does that kind of job pay back then? And yet, he had a 2-story house with a basement. He was on 10 acres of land, you know, that went from the county road that they were on all the way up to the top of the mountain, had fields and forest and, you know, blah, 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 blah. So he had stuff, and they had a car. And so I asked my dad, I said, well, what about, like, medical? He didn't have medical insurance, did he? You know, did they have that back when you were a kid? He's like, no. I said, well, then how did he pay for medical care when you needed medical care? And he holds up his hand, and my dad's, if he puts his hand like this, it looks normal, but if he does something with his finger, his little finger goes like a Z. He goes, we didn't. Because my dad broke his finger in football, and they couldn't do anything with it, so I don't know, they taped it together or something. It didn't quite work. His hand works fine, but if he does that, it does this weird little thing. They took care of themselves, right? You can do that, we can do that, but can you do that? These are things to think about, like not just to poo-poo, but like what are you gonna do when you need to do these things? Do you know, not have you read, Not have you watched a YouTube video on, have you put your hands to the guts of a critter that you had to kill, clean, dress, butcher, and then prepare to eat. Whether that be, you know, a chicken or those critters I don't eat anymore, rabbits, squirrels, you know, whatever. A cow, a goat. Have you butchered an animal? Kill it, clean it, butcher it, prepare it. Ew. Ew. People used to do it all the time. Now you just go get it on your pretty little white tray, right? Well, those white trays could go away like that. Pow! Do you know how to do it? Because there is right ways and wrong ways. It's not rocket science. My kids can butcher critters. My kids have been butchering critters since they were, you know, had to stand on a stool to look into the sink. But there are right ways and wrong ways. You can ruin a lot of meat by doing it wrong, right? That's a shame. So if you answer no, or you have a less than satisfactory answer to any of those questions, I would encourage you to address them. Go address your deficiencies. For those of you of the faith, I'm not going to get super religious on you here, but it's kind of got to start there to go here, and then we'll end. For those of you who are Israelites, Torah observant, Nazarene, Hebrew roots, Messianic, whatever, there's a bunch of names. You believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and you're trying to keep Torah, right? Or you're leaning that way, or are very openly interested in it, not skeptical of it. There is the, I don't know if it's the 5th or the 6th one we've done, the Gathering of the Saints. That is coming up end of August, beginning of September, that weekend right there. It starts Wednesday, it ends Saturday, Sunday, right? We're going to all meet outside of Nashville, Tennessee, for 4 or 5 days. Gathering of the Saints, people who believe this way. And usually the first day is just like a fellowship, get your tent set up, that kind of thing. It's a beautiful place. It's at Straightway. Meet people, talk, campfires, that kind of thing. And then the next day, Thursday, is classes on kind of everything I just talked about, you know. Homesteading, canning, self-defense, shooting, first aid, hunting, just whatever people want to teach so, you know, I can get organized. And then Friday is usually a big range day, shooting. And beginners, we have beginners classes for people who are very unfamiliar with their firearm, all the way up to advanced level stuff for other people. That's kind of an all-day thing. And then, excuse me, at the same time we do some self-defense classes, women's self-defense, stuff like that. And then Saturday is Shabbat. And so we have a service, a gathering, and typically, historically, I give the sermon on that day, which is not to say that Pastor Dow sits there quietly. He's got something to say. And then usually that night we have a deliverance service. And then people leave either Saturday after sundown or they leave Sunday morning, that kind of thing. It's a lot of fun. If you're interested, go to, I think you can just type in straightway.com or .org. I know I should know this, right? But I wasn't planning on going there. I'm just kind of rambling with y'all. If you just look up, if you Google straightway.org or straightway.com, you'll find it. It's also straightwaytruth.org, but you can find it both ways. And you spell Straightway, S-T-R-A-I-T-W-A-Y. Not the GH stuff in there. Straightway. If you're interested, go there. There's on the main page, there's a GOTS form. You have to download it, fill it out. It's rather detailed. There are rules there. There's no nonsense that is allowed or tolerated. It's not that kind of gathering. It's a gathering of the saints, right? It's fun. Lots of people. If you're interested, download the thing, and I'll see you there. Let me know that you're going. It'll be interesting. It's my plan to go there. All right. I hope that gave you some stuff to think about. We live in great times. These are the good times, right? These are the fat times. These are the times when I can sit here and make a video in this beautiful environment and drink hot coffee and not have to have 8 people posted on security and a ready reaction team ready to go. I can go to the store and buy whatever I want. These are good times. Hug your kids. Hug your mom, your dad. All right. Hey, I'll see you out there.